Hello, everyone. Welcome back on the AgriAdventures platform. Simone is here, and today is another 15 minutes interview on AgriAdventures, as I said, and we have Ashleigh Seymour. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Pronounced properly?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay. I'm trying hard to do it. I will do it. I will do it one day. Have a proper pronunciation to all the surnames all over South Australia and all over the planet. Okay, so Ashleigh is today with us because Ashleigh is a winemaker. She's a winemaker. She has been working in few places. She will tell us about more in a minute. And she's working at the moment at Paxton Winery in McLaren Vale. I have a sort of long relationship with Paxton, a couple of years of interviews and chat about, because Paxton is certified biodynamic, and to me it's really interesting to promote sustainable agriculture and sustainable food production. And so ta-da, that's why Ashleigh, she's here with us. So Ashleigh, would you like to tell something about yourself to people that's following this interview?
Yes, so I'm originally from Melbourne. I grew up on the edge of the Yarra Valley, and after traveling for a year after school and working in Europe, I moved to Adelaide to study winemaking in 2005, I think it was. Yeah, 2005. I don't come from a wine background. My father's really passionate about wine. He's always drunk wine, and it was always encouraged at the family dinner table for us to try, once we were sort of in our teenage years and could have a bit of an appreciation for it. We spent many family holidays going around to different wineries, visiting wineries in regional Victoria and also Tasmania and Western Australia and South Australia as well. So that really sort of sparked an interest for me. I come from a sort of maths science background in terms of what I was interested in sort of in school, but I really didn't want to be a kind of lab coat scientist, working indoors under fluorescent lighting every day. So wine really appealed to me in the fact that, it's the science based, but it's also creative. You get outside, and every day is definitely not the same in the job. So it's quite variable. So that's sort of what sparked my interest, and then moved to Adelaide to study winemaking at Adelaide University.
That is cool. So soon after you finished your study, did you start to work straight away in the wine industry?
I did my first vintage during university at Peter Lehmann Wines in the Barossa.
Okay.
Yeah, so a very big winery, but I was lucky that I got to see lots of different things. I was a little bit in the laboratory and doing a lot of different work in the cellar as well. So as much as it was a big winery, it was a good introduction to what the reality, I suppose, is like, which was great. And during my studies as well, I worked at the Lane Vineyard in the Adelaide Hills, just out of Harndorf, in the Cellar Door restaurant. During my studies, and then I did vintage there in 2009 for a couple of months, and after that I went to France, to Condrieu, Saint-Joseph.
Okay.
So Viognier-Shiraz country. Okay. Which was a great experience. I learned French in school, but, I went over there and did a 2-week sort of intensive French course to get myself a little bit on track before harvest, as I went to work for a small family winery, and they didn't really speak English at all. So that was, it was a great experience, and I was
challenge,
family, a bit of a challenge, but that was very eye-opening, and seeing, the traditional European way of winemaking, and in a small family vineyard, very sustainably produced, not using any chemical herbicides or pesticides or anything there. They weren't sort of organically certified, but that's just the way that they did it.
And so I will have so many questions for you, because since I moved in Australia, the first time actually was in 2009. My background is sommelier, so I'm on the other side of the bottle, and I always found huge differences in between mine two big styles of New World and Old World, and I always had why, like in my brain, I'm always trying to figure out those differences. Unfortunately, don't think we have enough time to go through all these topics. But in your opinion, you also told me you've been working in Italy too for a bit of time. So
just a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit. So you speak Italian at this point.
Yes.
Do you want to say ciao to the people that's following from the Italian radio?
Ciao a tutti, spero che vi piaccia questa discussione oggi e magari un'altra volta facciamo tutto in italiano.
Magari la prossima volta. Just we have to make sure that also them are happy, considering what's happening at the moment.
Yes.
So, in your opinion, what are the main differences between the two styles? What you've seen over there happening often, and what you've seen over here happening often in winemaking?
I think it's not necessarily old world, new world, but it's, what I was saying before, a little bit traditional, respectful, sustainable winemaking versus industrial winemaking. Because even in Europe, in France and Italy and Spain, the big industrial commercial wineries are making those style wines as well that, can be a little bit tiring, I suppose. You drink a glass and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with the wine. It's very well made. It's very good, but you don't sort of go back and realize you've finished the whole bottle without sort of even realizing it, whereas wines, I think, that are made with a little bit more love and passion about the actual agriculture and what's happening to the land, and letting that influence come through into the glass, and guiding that through rather than sort of constructing something with the various enological technologies and products and things like that you can use, make for a wine that's just got more vibrancy and life, I think.
Okay.
I think those producers are probably more present in Europe because there's so many more small wineries.
Exactly.
More family-run sort of operations.
Exactly.
Whereas in the New World, it's a lot more of a modern thing, and a lot of the wineries are big sort of commercial enterprises.
Yes, and also there is always involved the economy of scale, which is like bigger is better, and bigger is cheaper. The markets where these wines they generally end to are huge markets, so they need to compete a lot if they want to enter. While like for us, like Italian or French, we have a sort of preferential route because generally Italian wines or French wines are well recognized. So in some way, it's easy to enter the market for us at the price point, which also that's the other thing. So interesting. So no difference in terms of winemaking, but more difference in terms of market. That's really cool. Okay, so I see an interesting logo on your forehead, which is the little bit, yes, Paxton Wine, McLaren Vale. So why did you decide to go work at Paxton?
So I was in Italy, in Montepulciano in Tuscany for 11 years.
Oh, okay, just a little bit. Okay.
Just a little bit. Working mainly with Sangiovese, and over the last couple of years, it was definitely time for a change. Having small children and things like that on the other side of the world, we started to notice the distance from family and that kind of thing. And then COVID obviously exacerbated all those sort of issues.
Exactly, yes.
And I suppose it was, in some ways, it was the sort of little push over the edge that we needed to go, okay, you know, it's time, because Italy is a hard place to leave. But practically it made sense to come back to Australia. And when I saw the job come up at Paxton, I thought, like, the job, it was written for me, basically. It felt like it was written for me. And so I went through the process of the application, everything, and considering the challenges of coming back to Australia in 2020, or, you know, remains today as well, pretty difficult. Everything just sort of aligned. I quit my job before I'd been offered the job at Paxton, and so I quit my job and got offered the job at Paxton the very next day, and then I had booked a flight on a bit of a whim back to Australia because, you know, prices were going a bit crazy. You know, Rome to Adelaide was something like 4,000 euros. And I found a flight to Brisbane, booked it, and within, I think it was supposed to be about 4 weeks, and then I got the dreaded call saying your flight's been cancelled, but they managed to fit me on a flight a few days earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just sort of had to take it. Everything kind of aligned, the universe aligned, and Paxton took a big punt as well in me being able to get back to Australia in time and everything. And yeah, it all happened, got through quarantine and all that silly business, and started at Paxton in mid-January, just before harvest.
Oh, okay, perfect. Exciting time.
Very
Exciting time, generally. It's a really stressful time of the year.
Very stressful time. My husband and 4-year-old remained in Italy for almost 3 months, because they had to stay for a little bit to get all our belongings sorted out and send everything home, and then they got their flights cancelled over and over again. But yeah, we eventually all made it back together, and yeah, living in McLaren Vale and really enjoying it here.
That's cool. That's cool. Or what are the challenges do you have the most at the moment to face over there?
It was interesting for me coming in right before harvest. I didn't really have a chance to get my head around everything before harvest, but Paxton has about 180 hectares of vineyards that we manage. Most of them are owned by us, and some of them are owned together with Paxton and some other shareholders. And so we manage them all in biodynamics. And you know, that's obviously it's different. It's interesting for me to see the differences between biodynamic viticulture in Europe or in Italy, where I was, and the different challenges in Australia, which might be, you know, more water challenges, weeds and things like that are much more challenging here in McLaren Vale, for example, as opposed to where I was in Italy. Things like powdery and downy mildew were much more of an issue there than they are here. So there's all sort of different things, and even with you know, some of the preparations and things need to be applied slightly differently, taking into account the different seasons and different conditions here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And okay, so what's your favorite wine so far to work on at Paxton? Just for curiosity.
You know, I come from working a lot with Sangiovese, which we're not currently doing here at the moment at Paxton. We do have some Sangiovese, but those grapes are currently sold to other producers. But I'm really enjoying working with Grenache. I think it's quite a similar style of grape, I suppose, in the fact that, you know, you've got similar challenges with the color and things like that. It's probably less tannic than Sangiovese, so it is a little bit more can be, depending on how it's grown and everything like that, can be a little bit more fruity and easy drinking, I suppose, than Sangiovese can be. Also, Sangiovese is a very malleable variety, so that, you know, it can be sort of turned into lots of different styles. But I'm still learning about Grenache, and that's very exciting. We're also doing Tempranillo, which is very popular, I suppose, alternative grape varietal, as much as we've been growing it at Paxton, I think, since the early 2000s. So, for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And just experimenting as well with, Shiraz can be made in so many different styles as well. And really looking at the differences between some of the vineyard sites that we have. We make a number of single vineyard Shiraz wines that all stand on their own for, the completely different characters from those vineyards that might be not that distant from each other in terms of kilometers, but the soils here in McLaren Vale are so distinct. We've got beautiful ancient soils, and there's so many different peculiarities. I can't even speak English anymore. Between them, it's really exciting to sort of learn how that expresses itself differently in the wines that come through at the end of the day as well.
So, now you are here, you're working in Paxton, your family moved back over here, and what are your dreams for the future?
Really important to me is keeping, how do I say that? Like keeping to the ideals that I believe in around organic and biodynamic and sustainable production. Okay. That's really important to me to be working in that space, and I want to continue to work in that space. Wine is a luxury. It's possibly not a necessity. I'm sure, we'd like it to be a necessity, but, in the terms of we can live without it. Not saying that life would be that much fun living without it, but, we sort of can live without it. So I feel that a luxury item shouldn't be made destroying the earth.
I understand.
So I'm really passionate about that. I want to keep in this space. We've got big projects here at Paxton to expand the winery so that we can crush all our own fruit on site. At the moment, we use a winery around the corner. And, so there's a big project there, and that's going to take a few years, and I'm really excited about that. And that'll just give us even the extra control over the process, which is really important in organic and biodynamic winemaking when, you're not adding a lot of enological products and interfering too much with the natural wine process. But at the same time, we have to, use the right modern technology and analytical techniques to make sure that we know what's happening, so we can be prepared and proactive for anything that does go wrong. And so I think in the medium term, I'm really passionate about seeing what can happen at Paxton, and I think we really want to grow, and the organic space is a very exciting one to be in at the moment. And I think we have an advantage because we've been doing biodynamics since 2004. We didn't just start doing it yesterday. And we're probably one of the bigger producers, grape growers in Australia under biodynamic practices. So we've got a real advantage there. I think in the future, I'd definitely like to make my own wine. We'll see what happens in that space, but there's lots of little ideas in the background, working on a few different side projects with Paxton at the moment, just to keep things exciting. And
Okay, well, this is quite a lot, because it seems easy to work natural, because the market doesn't accept the pricing for natural, because the communication is really difficult to transfer the communication, especially with organic definitions, which doesn't say much, and people is always confused. So that's really interesting.
So, we're still a commercially sized winery, so we have to make sure that the products are, first and foremost, really great wines.
Yes, exactly. As Ben said to me one time, you cannot be green if you are in red.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for being with us on AgriAdventures and on Radio Italia Una dell'Aide, Ashleigh. And definitely you are not really far away at the moment. You are in McLaren Vale, so we may come to visit you and taste the wine. And if you are around, we can have a chat.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Lovely. Thank you again and buona giornata.
Ciao, anche a te. Ciao, buona
Ciao.
giornata.
Bye bye.